What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. And this is going to be another episode of the Trust the Bank podcast. We've got two segments for you guys today. So if you guys are watching the first segment talking about the edge rushers in this upcoming draft class, you can check out the full podcast episode and hear our thoughts on Lamar Jackson and his contract situation if you go over to the podcast platforms, or you can wait a day or so and you'll be able to watch that YouTube segment, very soon. But getting right into this first topic, edge rusher is definitely a position of need in this draft for the Ravens. And a lot of people have talked about, potentially drafting edge rusher with the first round pick. Now, we've already talked about potentially trading up and going after a guy like Kayvon Thibodeaux. But if Ravens aren't going to trade up and they're going to go after a player potentially at 14, there's two guys that could potentially be available. And so many guys in the comments section, I see this man's name more than probably any other player. They talk about Jermaine Johnson. Oh, we got to get Jermaine Johnson. Edge rusher out of Florida State. That's the guy. Jermaine Johnson. We hop on live stream. Should we draft Jermaine Johnson? That is like every single comment I feel like when it comes to the draft. There's no talk about Sauce. There's no talk about there's a little bit of talk about Jordan Davis. But it's mostly Jermaine Johnson. So we're going to talk about Jermaine Johnson, and we're going to compare him with the other player that could potentially be available at 14 at edge rusher, which is George Karlaftis, the edge rusher out of Purdue. Joshua, you're sitting at 14, both players are available somehow, or who are you, leading towards taking?
Well, listen, I know everybody's been talking about Jermaine Johnson, Florida State University was one of my teams when Jameis Winston was playing. They had one, and they maybe had one of the best groups and that year. I think it was Nick O'Leary, Green. I forgot what the defense was like, but the defense was
Jermaine.
Okay. They were just as great on the opposite side. So I mean, Florida State University, they have a history of producing NFL talent. Asante Samuel Jr. just recently came out of Florida State University. I mean, I like Jermaine Johnson's game. I mean, at the initial attack, he knows how to get his hands up. He knows how to make that drive. He knows how to, make containment. But me, I'm looking for someone that, that can play over 40 snaps, that doesn't stop, that's very relentless, that has more than one move, and, knows how to bull rush a tackle. I know everybody's seen the clips of Daniel Falahi and Darius Kennard get blown up by Jermaine Johnson. But if you have not been watching the Boilers football this past season, George Karlaftis has been a guy that is always on a relentless tear. He knows he has a great center of gravity. He just know how to go after it. So, me, if I'm sitting at 14, if I don't make a move, I'm going after the more polished guy, which is George Karlaftis, to put on the opposite side of the Adafio way, where, Adafi is still a raw talent. George Karlaftis, in my opinion, is a little bit more polished than him. He has a little bit more technique. He is not as raw as Adafio Way. So you give someone, that's still learning versus someone that already has those, those technique, that hand coordination, that violence about him. I like my chances.
Yeah, and both of them have similar strengths and weaknesses. Neither of them are great run defenders. That's something that they both need to improve on. So it's not like, we're going out there like in previous years, like, for example, last year when we were talking about guys like Odafe Oweh, versus guys like, Jalen Phillips. Odafe Oweh, was less pure as a pass rusher, but he was one of the best graded run defenders. And so they were able to compare, like, okay, yeah, they have different strengths. Both of these guys are powerful pass rushers that need to work on their run defense. And so which guy would you rather have? I'm going to agree with you, Joshua. For me, I like both prospects. If they're available, I am happy with drafting both of them. I always come out with a list before the draft of, like, whatever it is, the 6 guys that I am happy with taking, and I end up ranking them. Both of these guys are on that list, okay? So I am happy with either of them if they come to Baltimore. And guys, we also do want to know what you guys are thinking. I can already tell it's going to be Jermaine Johnson, but, might as well hear, see if anyone else is on the Karlaftis train. But Karlaftis has something going for him that, I value, and that he is coming out of the Big Ten. If you guys don't know about the Big Ten is one of the premier divisions in college football, but it's the best division when it comes to the offensive line. When you talk about the big boys in college football, it's the offensive line at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. It's the offensive line at Iowa. It's the offensive line at Michigan State, Penn State. These guys are just, Midwest farm boys, Marshall Yandas, Tyler Linderbaum, they come out every single year. There's a new, here are these great players. They get to play against them, and they get to play against the best offensive line groups in the country. And he's been there for 3 years, and he's been performing for really, it's more like 2.5 because he got hurt in the 2020 season. But he has a relentless effort, and he's gone against guys that are more likely to make it, to the NFL than a guy like Jermaine Johnson has. Not saying he hasn't played against, NFL talent coming out of the ACC, but it's less. It's less so, on the offensive line side. Obviously, they play against teams like Clemson, and they play against, great programs. But offensive line-wise, that's not their strength, right? The Pac-12 is known for, they like to have special, I'm blanking on the name, but wide receivers and running backs and tight ends, right? They're not known for putting out great O-linemen. They're not known for putting out linebackers of sorts. Secondary isn't a huge strength of them. Obviously, there's always exceptions, guys, when we bring up things like this. Yes, there's been players. But Karlaftis has gone against that talent, and he has produced against that talent. And I love his relentless edge. I think that's one of the biggest things that, you can get out of an edge rusher. The Ravens need more guys that will constantly chase after the football. I don't want to have to see Jelly Roll Justin Ellis, the only guy chasing down, who was it? Travis Kelce.
Taking angles.
we need guys that are going to chase after that football, and having Karlaftis would allow for that. So I definitely think I would prefer Karlaftis. We still got a little ways to go before the draft. So if you guys want to change your mind, put it in the comment section down below, like the reasoning. But I feel like Karlaftis just gets totally slept on when I think he's the third best edge rusher in the class. Now, I don't really consider Trayvon Walker an edge. I think of him more as like a Calais Campbell type of edge, where he's lifted as a defensive end, but he plays inside, he plays outside. Karlaftis is an edge player. That's all he's got. So I don't know. I like Jermaine Johnson, but I don't know. I feel like for some reason we've seen a fall in Karlaftis' stock, and I don't really know why, because it's not like he had a terrible combine. He didn't run the 40-yard dash, so we can't know if he was, slow or something like that. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts as to why Jermaine Johnson's been surging? Was it the Senior Bowl? Is that why?
No, I don't think it's that. Jermaine Johnson already had stardom. Something I did not know. He was on Last Chance U, and Last Chance U was actually one of my shows I actually watched. And this is when he played for Independence Community College. So he's actually had 1 year in the ACC, but I'm gonna say this: just off of 1 year in the ACC and receiving ACC Defensive Player of the Year and first team All Conference honors and ranking top for 8th nationally with 18 tackles for loss, with 12 sacks among 70 total stops, with 2 pass breakups and 2 forced fumbles in 12 starts. Okay, I get it. That's amazing. Just to come from a community college, come there for 1 year and make such a difference, I totally get it. I totally respect it. Anybody coming from JUCO and can make an immediate impact, I love it. I mean, I know a lot of guys that went to Cal Fullerton State. Shout out to Adrian Amos that's now playing for. Is he still playing for the Packers?
I honestly don't even know where Adrian Amos is right now. He may still be playing for Green Bay.
I mean, so. And that's another Baltimore guy too, guys. But I'm just saying, everybody's story is very different. But Jermaine Johnson, between the stardom and last chance you, him coming in, making that surge in 1 year. I think that Senior Bowl also did add to his stock, and I'm not mad at it as well, because honestly, with the David Ojabo injury, I think David Ojabo was even a little higher than George Karlaftis. I mean, but George Karlaftis has grit. At his pro day, I believe he ran a 4.7, and it was brick cold, with no shirt on. I mean, listen, one of my favorite underrated defensive ends that we should have brought back in this offseason is Jahi Ward. Reason I love Jahi Ward, big body guy, doesn't give up, relentless energy on that front line against those long, lengthy offensive tackles. You need guys that do not stop. You need guys that can push those offensive tackles into the quarterback, and when you do that, that messes with the quarterback's momentum. It messes with the quarterback's sight. They don't know what else to do. And George Karlaftis, once he makes that initial push, and if you know about lifting weights, when you got that lowest center of gravity and you put that out on the field, the sky's the limit. I told you. I'm gonna tell you. I told you once. I'm gonna tell you again. It's not too much to do when an offensive tackle is in the pass pro. I mean, pass pros, you're literally retreating and pushing back. Once you got someone coming at you full speed, attacking you, hit you with the swim, hit you with the bull rush, and that just keeps on chopping at your arms and hurting them forearms, eventually that offensive tackle ain't gonna want to block that man no more. I mean, y'all saw how Yannick Ngakoue slapped Villanueva's hand down real quick and got to the backfield. So I mean, those little techniques, those are very effective. And I feel like George Karlaftis is the complete package. Now, once again, TTB family, you all can comment, and express your desire for us to draft Jermaine Johnson. But I'm pretty much saying, George Karlaftis is a complete package, and put him on the opposite side of Adafio Way, I feel like that's a match made in heaven if we don't trade up and get Kayvon.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something where you look at the comparisons that people have put out on both of the guys, and they both have great comparisons. They're a bit different of players, but I've seen Karlaftis compared to, I think the highest caliber player I've seen him compared to was Dwight Freeney. You can never expect a player that you draft to become Dwight Freeney, so I never want to set expectations that high. But the more common one that I see is Ryan Kerrigan, and Ryan Kerrigan was a very underrated edge rusher for the Washington Redskins, now Washington football team, for I don't know, a decade it feels like, very solid player, a productive pass rusher. And I think so many people get lost. I'm not saying they won't turn into, better than productive pass rushers. Ryan Kerrigan was a great pass rusher, but he was consistently productive, which is what we want. And when you draft a first-round player, so many people will want this player to become the greatest of all time. Now, obviously, with every pick, you want him to become the greatest of all time. But you have to be happy with very productive. That's as much as you can ask for with the first-round pick. I think both of these players will do that. But I think Karlaftis has more consistency that he'll be able to show. Whereas Jermaine Johnson, I don't know. Him only playing 1 year at Florida State, I'm not against it. He didn't qualify to play collegiately for academic reasons. It wasn't because he didn't have offers. He was a stud coming out of high school, but he just had to go play, and then work his way back up. So I don't know. My thoughts on the whole thing is both are great players, but I would rather have Ryan, if I'm looking at the comparisons, I'd rather have Ryan Kerrigan than Max Crosby. And Max Crosby's a really good player too. But Ryan Kerrigan, I feel like is just more consistent, and obviously you don't want to go 100% on comps, but I like what I've seen from Karlaftis more, and I like his comparison a little bit more. And I feel like him alongside Odafe Oweh could actually be a very aggressive and physical front that offensive tackles don't want to play against. Because if you have, when you have an Odafe Owe, a guy who's crazy strong, crazy fast, you got to throw a double team out there a lot of times because the offensive tackle can't handle it. Well, if we have two really strong and powerful edge rushers on both sides, you can't double team both of them.
Not at all. Think of how that opened up those holes, those B gaps, some A gaps. Think about how Patrick Queen was literally flying through those B gaps. I mean, think about if we get a Quan Alexander. I mean, it's literally the sky's the limit of how things can work. I mean, and honestly, no, they're not both great run stoppers, but George Karlaftis actually has a better sense of becoming a premium run stopper.
Yep. I mean, it's also just down to preference. If neither of these guys go to Baltimore, it just depends on the situation that they go to where the guy can become better. I think they're very, very similar in what they're going to bring, high energy, productive. But I just like Karlaftis a little bit more, and it's okay if you guys disagree. I have them really close right next to each other, but I feel like so many people are undervaluing Karlaftis, and I really don't know why. Maybe it's just one of those things possibly where people just fall in love with a certain prospect and just negate everyone else when, similar thing with guys like Tyrann Mathieu or Jordan Davis, for example. Everyone wants Tyrann Mathieu now. It's like, well, we got a safety in Marcus Williams. Yeah. So many people are like, we need Jordan Davis. It's like, yeah, great prospect. We just signed Michael Pierce. We gave him some good money on like a 3-year deal. Like, the blinders have to come off sometimes, to accept that, hey, there's other alternatives, and it's not just one way of doing it. And I like Karlaftis a little bit more. But do you have anything else you want to add into the edge rusher draft discussion?
Nah, man, I'm just waiting until April 27th at this point now.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let's get into the final segment of